note, and no, he can't play at all because we'll see. And how many schools are signing 6'5" ponderous quarterbacks?
Right, right.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
Located on Lake Pontchartrain, Brisbee's Lakefront Restaurant and Bar offers traditional West End favorites, a scenic view, oysters, and numerous tasty options. More information is available at 504-304-4125 or brisbeesrestaurant.com. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House has been shucking here since 1979. Located at 3117 21st Street in Metairie, Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House offers raw, fried, and grilled oysters as well as a range of Cajun and Creole dishes. Enjoy a dozen with a smile. Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is the first place award winner of the 2015 New Orleans Press Club's Excellence in Journalism Award for the category of Best TV Sports Show.
Good evening, New Orleans, and welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we're going to cover all the home teams for you. The New Orleans Saints, the LSU Tigers, and the Tulane Green Wave, and we got a panel that can do it all. Rene Nadeau of SportsNola.com, WHNO-TV, and a whole lot more. Also with Rick Gaille. Coach Rick Gaille joins us tonight from SportsNola.com and at WHNO-TV. Of course, WGSO Radio and the Three Tailgaters as well. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for coming down tonight. Certainly appreciate it. We always like to start off letting the audience know a little bit about what you're involved in. Rene, why don't you take it from here?
Color analyst, football analyst, college football for a few different networks. Work for CBS Radio for anything sports related going on down in New Orleans. Saints games, particularly Pelicans games and bowl games. Do a show with Rick, we're a prep recruiting insider. Work for SportsNola.com. And I think that's about it.
There you go.
But you can remember.
That I can
There's
remember.
more.
Yeah. How about you, Rick? Give us the rundown.
Well, starting with working with Rene, it's my third year working with Rene, and that's been really great. Just enjoyed every second of it. That comes on Wednesday night. Started with Ken Trahan's original Prep Football Report 6 years ago, and now work on Countdown to the Original with Ro Brown leading into that show. As you mentioned, the Three Tailgaters on WGSO on Saturday with Ken Trahan and Ed Daniels, and write for SportsNola.com. And when JT Curtis can't make it there, I sit in with Ed on Friday Night Football and have a great time with that. So I'm just having a ball.
Well, full slate for both you guys. Thanks for making time tonight. We appreciate it. Saints 41, Carolina 38. Saints go to 2-3. Have a chance this week to even their record as they go to Kansas City. I said a couple weeks ago the first win with the divine intervention with the San Diego Chargers was a win that the city needed, the organization needed, and obviously the team needed. I thought that this win inside the division at home, a home win finally, I thought the team kind of needed more than anything else, and the fan base that spends their money and goes out there needed it as well. Rene, your thoughts on the Carolina victory? Kind of just take it from there, and then we'll kind of morph into Coach and his thoughts and kind of go through it.
It was an interesting game because they had a lot of high points, a lot of scoring, and the way it was won on the final second was kind of exciting. Kept everybody in the stands, and that was great for the morale of the team and the city as well, as you said. This team is certainly wasn't deep at a few different positions, offensive and defensive line, but they've had a lot of guys step up. guys who weren't even, in most cases, not even on a roster. And that's been kind of interesting that this team has been put together, patched together, and done what they've done. Even though they're not undefeated or is highly regarded right now, they've done a good job filling in some spots, some injured players, and a lot of credit goes to the scouting department and the coaching staff.
Yeah, I would agree. I've been critical of the personnel scouting department in the past, but when you can pull Sterling Moore and B.W. Webb off the street, and these guys that come in and contribute, I didn't expect much out of those guys. I mean, that's telling you a lot, and the hope is Sterling Moore can get back this week. We'll talk about injuries in a moment. Coach, your synopsis of the game.
To be able to jump out to a 21-0 lead, have Cam Newton really on his heels. You could tell that he was taking some time to get back to normal. The Saints having backups, 4 backups getting hurt, so they're way down on the roster. When you look at the left tackle position, that you have your 3rd left tackle playing at that position, and still gain a ridiculous number of yards. That is just that's amazing. And the secondary scrambling around like crazy. The front has done a pretty good job so far in controlling the run. 3.8, they kept Carolina last week. Saints haven't been able to run the ball very well either, though. But Craig Robinson and Nate Stupar stepping in at the inside linebacker positions have been outstanding. And Von Bell playing. He played the most number of plays this week between defense. He played 95% of the snaps. He played on 23 plays as well. So he played over 90 plays in the game. So perhaps that's going to turn out to be well. But gosh, it's a league of quarterbacks and cornerbacks, and right now the Saints are struggling at the cornerback position, and it's hard, even as good as Sterling Moore coming in and B.W. Webb. It's going to be hard for them to win games on a consistent basis unless the other teams cooperate. But fortunately, it's in a league that's mediocre enough that they get a lot of cooperation.
Amen to that. This is not the Carolina team of last year. We know that, so people can't get too excited. The Saints really need to get healthy, especially coming off that bye week, getting that win. That's great. Pete and Moore go out with injuries. It'd be interesting to see if either one of those guys are back this week. We know that Rankins has started to practice. He'll come back on week 9. I heard that Armstead was practicing today. Right. The hope is he gets back, especially if Pete can't go. And then, of course, Delvin Breaux has been tweeting out there that he's ready to go. I'm not sure if he'll be ready this week, but possibly for next week. Still no word on Ellaby. You were saying before the show that Ellaby practiced today, right?
Yes. Yeah, for the first time all year. Gosh.
So, I mean, they got to get healthy. I mean, they don't have a lot of quality depth to be going, 3, 4, or 2 or 3 men down on the depth chart.
And, I'll say this, and I know this is not where you want to go with this, Eric, but when people start talking about 18-game schedule, can you only imagine? And the thing is that, and I've been saying this, guys who say, well, they should drop 2 exhibition games and play 18 games. Saints, among other teams, can't even get through half the schedule they'll be playing with the Tyler Palcos. No offense to him, but that's what they'll be playing the Super Bowl with, because 18 games will just destroy, physically take the toll on players.
Yeah, I agree with that. And look, I'll also say it's hard for the NFL. College is different when you don't have a preseason, because you have those guys. They're there. You recruit those guys. They're with you. I mean, look at the Saints roster turnover in just the last couple years. Yep. You need the preseason to try to find out what these guys are about.
Right. 47% last year, 45% this year, before the injuries. I mean, we've chronicled over and over again the Saints personnel mishaps along the way. They're having the lack of depth now, as we've related before, because of bad drafts and not being able to stockpile talents, way behind in the salary cap, for over $40 million in dead money because of their free agent mistakes as well. But they're doing a heck of a job in putting together a team, and the CBA has helped the Saints because nobody can practice anymore. Right. Players do a great job. They've never been in better condition now than in the history of the league. You're looking at players who can play longer, much longer than in the past, because they work all year at it, getting scientific about it. But fortunately, because you can't practice anymore, it makes it easier for people to come off the street and participate at this level. It's remarkable.
Defensively, unlike the offensive side of the ball where you have an elite player in Drew Brees, you don't really have that player on the defensive side of the ball that can elevate everybody's play, that an opposing team will, game plan for that player every single week to try to take him out. We see other franchises with those type of players. Saints just don't have that player on the defense side of the ball. On the offensive side of the ball, they obviously have it with Drew Brees. I mean, Cam Jordan's having one of the better years he's had in his career this year. Delvin Breaux, I guess, when he's on the field and he's healthy, he's been thought of as an elite cornerback, but I still think that, we got to look at the tail of the tape a little bit longer, see what he is, because he's been injured a little bit. Rene, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, are they got a bunch of guys right now, some pretty good players, but really no great players on the defensive side of the ball.
And there's two guys that before the season started, these two names, people would not have thought would be standout players. I can't say standout. Zach Strief on offense and Nick Fairley on defense are exceeded what the coaching staff thought they would do this year. Zach Strief, people didn't know if he was going to be back. And Nick Fairley is better than I thought he was going to be.
He's definitely got a better motor than we thought he was.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say he's an elite player, but he's certainly held his own and helped that defense when he's on the field.
Coach, what's your thoughts?
It's Fairley, especially, is playing a lot more than he figured he had to play. But when you talk about having a great player, it's not just their skill, but what they bring to the table in leading that side of the football. Every single player on offense plays every play as if it's their last because they don't want to let number 9 down. There's not that player on defense, as good as Cam Jordan is, and as good as Nick Fairley is. The rest of the defense doesn't feel like I got to play for this guy. Peyton Manning last year, statistically, was not very good, but everybody played harder when he was on the field. He elevated the rest of the team because they weren't going to let him down. And that's the number one motivation in sport and in football, just as in war, that you don't want to let your buddy down.
Yeah. You mentioned on the offensive side of the ball, the offensive line, for the most part, has played fairly well. 8 sacks against Brees this year. Now, Brees makes a lot of that time on his own, moving his feet, moving in the pocket, which, again, helps the offensive line. He doesn't want to take a sack. But you mentioned Zach Strief. All of a sudden, Jari Evans comes in. He's fairly healthy. He's not the player he was, maybe 5 years ago. But all of a sudden, that right side of the line is now solidified. I mean, last year, maybe Strief had to help Pete out a little bit, a guy that was not familiar with the right guard position. This year, those guys are working in tandem.
Well, and also playing between Max Unger and Zach Strief makes Jari Evans a better player, certainly. And that's Max Unger is not getting, he's having a good year.
Yes.
Center, center's not going to jump out. And
sure.
But he's having a good year. And a guy who is better than I thought, Clemente, has done good. So, I mean, you got a couple of guys that have stepped up. It's a position they're going to really have to address in the offseason. That's really going to be
time's running out.
As bad as the defense is going to have to be addressed, that offensive line is going to have to be addressed.
Coach, you break the tape down every single week. What are you seeing on that offensive line?
Well, I didn't realize till this year how different it was to play on the right side or the left side. I mean, I knew it was different visually. It's like learning how to write left-handed if you're right-handed. But when Andrus Peat moved from right guard to left guard, I mean, they moved him all over the place, and it was really crazy. They didn't give the youngest guy much of a chance because he's 2 years younger than any other offensive lineman. And then when he got back in his left-handed stance on the left side of the line, and he could just see better, he was just much more comfortable over there. So that's something that I learned from this year, and it's getting kind of a trade-off now. But to trade up to get Von Bell, the New England Patriots for that pick drafted an offensive lineman, a left guard from North Carolina, who has played every single snap at left guard for the New England Patriots. Now, Von Bell's starting to step up and show some promise there. But the Saints drafted this year like they were a contender instead of a team that needed bodies. But once again, the experience of Max Unger shows you how important the center position is. Personally, as a coach, I always put my best lineman there and would move somebody there to get the best player there. But it's amazing Jari Evans couldn't make it with really a mediocre offensive line at Seattle, but steps right in at New Orleans because he and Zach and Unger really work together. And Clemente, as you mentioned, has played much better Once he settled into one position, and that's something that's important too, that you could settle in and you could ply your trade at that position.
Well, I think a lot of us were in a little bit of a panic mode in the preseason, especially before Jari Evans got back here, not knowing what was going to happen with Andres Pete on the condition of the offensive line. They pulled it together. Interested to see how this is going to go going further. You know, again, I agree with both you guys. I mean, you know, the clock's running on both Streif and Evans at this point. How many more years can you get out of those guys? It looks like Pete's not going to be able to play the right side. I mean, he doesn't look like he's going to be able to handle the right tackle spot. You're not moving Teron Armstead at this point, so maybe left guard is where he ends up. So for the future, they're going to have to address that one way or the other. Well, you know, Josh Hill comes in last week. It looks like, first of all, impressive in terms of catching the football, something that he had problems with at times, a little inconsistent at times during his time with the Saints, but impressive catching the football. That touchdown catch was probably the best of his career, the way he brought that ball down. But looks like they expanded the playbook a bit once he got in there. You know, Kuhn was in, we were seeing some different looks, but once he got in, I thought we saw more of a two tight end set. We saw maybe the playbook a little different than we saw early without having two legitimate tight ends on the field.
And you know, Willie Snead was a big find last year, but Michael Thomas has gotten the attention of the defense, and he's a big physical receiver that the Saints did not have before. And because he certainly can change a game, he is attracting attention and giving Brandon Cooks maybe a little more leeway, if you will, because they have to focus a little attention on on Michael Thomas and Willie Snead again when he's in there. But Michael Thomas helps that passing and helps the other receivers, Cooks and Snead, when he's in there.
Right. Coach, why don't you take Josh Hill and kind of morph into that? Because I was going to ask about the wide receiver position, so we're just kind of
I absolutely agree with you about Josh Hill. In fact, I had said it back during OTAs and minicamp that Josh Hill's contributions have got to be there, because he did not have a good year last year, that he had to improve his play this year, and it was critical for him to be able to play at a high level for the Saints to be effective. And lo and behold, that's how it's turned out to be. The Saints are much more versatile with him in the game. He played a ton of plays in special teams as well, an extraordinarily versatile player. And it is no coincidence that Kobe Fleener is a better player with Josh Hill in the game. That really gives the defense some problems. You can go now from 3 wide receivers. I don't want to see Brandon Coleman on the field anymore to go to 4, but your 4th wide receiver now can be Fleener, or if you go 2 tight ends, or you could use Josh Hill as a move guy. So it adds so much versatility to the offense, and going forward, Josh Hill has got to be a strong contributor.
I agree with you on Thomas. I think he's a future star. They figured out how to utilize Brandon Cooks.
Yes.
Something I don't think they realized early in his career here in New Orleans.
They misdiagnosed him, as many of us did. We thought he was a shake and bake kind of guy.
Another
Catch
Sproles.
a short one, take it to the house, and return punts and kickoffs. He's not that at all. And I wish they'd quit popping the ball out to him in quick screens, because he cannot make a guy miss in the open field. Willie Snead has a chance of doing that, but he can't. But he's a down the field speed guy, and gosh, I've done some studies of how Drew Brees manipulates safeties and how much better Brandon Cooks has gotten on his release and his release technique. It is really fun to study.
Right. Rene, if you would, talk a little bit about Dennis Allen's coaching job. I mean, it's got to be difficult when you had the turnover in the roster he's had, and then even some of the guys you brought in, you haven't been able to plug in at times because of injuries, and then you look at the secondary, it's just been decimated.
You know, they're better than last year, and the numbers don't show it, but they don't have the personnel they need right now, and that's the biggest problem. They don't have the horses to pull a wagon. As you said, they don't have any guy that the offense can scheme against. You know, people like Jarris Byrd and guys they really counted on kind of fell through. Delvin Breaux, Akina Lewis, they thought they'd have him. I mean, you think of the guys that they thought would be starters this year. And you know, Laurinaitis has been okay, but he was hurt, and so I'm not making excuses, but I don't know if Dennis Allen really knew just this early in the season he was going to be pulling cards out of his sleeve,
right?
And that's basically what he's doing, and the personnel he has does not match the schemes he originally started the season with. So now you got to alter things a little bit or change things because it doesn't match.
Right, Coach?
Because every time you lose a player, you lose a part of play card. Okay, they have these big play cards, and every time a player goes out, it eliminates a certain part of that and then another part of it. What they're doing is very sound. They're doing as multiple as they can be, because you got to make sure that you want to be multiple, but you got to make sure everything is covered. You got to make sure the secondary and the front is coordinated in run support and the like. And so they're as multiple as they can be under the circumstance. They had one situation last week that they were playing the old 4-4-4 defense, and they had 12 on the field. Yeah. But if you're going to make a mistake, better with 12 than 10. But you see good organization. The players know what they're doing. Can't be as multiple as they'd like to be. And then the other thing, when you're having to play so many different players, is that you're having to try to evaluate them and figure out where they fit in so that you can pattern your game plans with what they can do, and you're constantly afraid of having a mistake made because you haven't had enough time with them. So it's, but they're sound in what they're doing, not as multiple as they'd like to be. Overall, a solid job.
Rene, Stephon Anthony goes from leading tackler to forgotten man. And I'm mused this week on the radio show, man, with that kind of athleticism, can you put him on the edge and just say, go get the passer? There's got to be something this guy can do.
He's and it hasn't changed that much from last year, the scheme, to this year. I mean, they know what he can do. And I just can't fathom. At first, I thought it was an injury of some kind that we were unknown about. We didn't know anything about it. But you're right. He's got the leading tackler. He's got very good athletic skill. He's a smart guy. He did a really good job as a middle linebacker as a rookie last year. And I just can't believe they can't put him on the field. They had Stupar, and you know, he's not even seeing the field still. Yeah. And when you talk to Sean Payton, he doesn't give you a definitive answer. He just says we expect to use him in the future, and his plans are here and stuff. But you don't expect to say he's going to get 20, 30 snaps in a game. But I still can't believe at this time of the season he still hasn't seen the field. I don't know how many snaps he's had total, but. You know,
not many. He had 4 last week on offense.
When you put the tape on, Coach, what do you say?
Guy that's put in a position where he can't play. He's not a Sam linebacker. He's got to play inside. They put him at Sam backer. When I went back to the Denver films when Allen was the coordinator there, and that's where the pass rusher was. They put him at Sam, and then when they went to nickel, Sam became a defensive end and a pass rusher. And I thought that they would put him at Sam, because that's only 20% of the time that you're playing with 3 linebackers in the league, that you're not in nickel. And then I thought that he would take Laurinaitis' place and come inside in nickel and dime defenses. But when Laurinaitis went out, they moved the Will backer over and put Stupar in. So I don't know if he's declined. I mean, I can't tell. He's out of position for sure, and the scheme is not allowing him to be able to participate at the same level that he's playing. I can't say that he's declined. He played 25 special team snaps the other day. So if you're good enough to be out there and covering kicks and doing important things in the kicking game, you would think that they could find something for him to be able to do. An edge rusher, it would be interesting to possibly see that.
Yeah, I mean, just to use his athleticism. Get him on the field at this point. The probably biggest unsung hero on this team has been Thomas Morstead and what he's been able to do in terms of flipping the field for this team. It's been remarkable. It really has, especially now that he doesn't deal with the kickoff anymore. I mean, how much of a weapon he has been.
And not only that, and Rick can tell you this because he coached special teams, you know, that punter, you know, he has to know who's covering kicks for him. You don't just kick the ball. And you have to know the skill of your cover guys and what they can do and stuff like that. So he has been, just like the defense has changed and the offense has changed, they've plugged guys, and they've plugged guys in that special teams. And again, Thomas Morstead adapts. It may not sound like a big thing, but it is. It is that. He has to adapt when he has different players in each and every week or every so often. And he puts so much into it, the coffin kicks, the angle kicks, things like that. He does such a great job, one of the best punters, taking the sideline away from the opposition, where, you know, pinning the guy in the corner and taking that side away and helping your special teams coverage get down, knowing that they have that sidelines as another defender. So he's a valuable player for the Saints, and boy, I tell you, I hope he's here a long time, because he is going to be very. Drew Brees is going to be tough, but Morstead is going to be very tough to replace.
Well, I'm going to say this right now. I was talking about this, Coach. I think we brought it up on the show during the summer, when you looked at possible cap casualties and you looked at his salary and you're thinking, okay, he's not going to be doing kickoffs anymore. You know, could he survive? Well, he's going to have to take a pay cut. They didn't even mess with him. So obviously, again, they know his value.
That you have to give them credit for that he's still with this organization, because he may be their most valuable player, what he's been able to do. In fact, I came up with I try to have checklists to try to rate things during the course of the game. And now I've discovered you cannot outkick your coverage if you punt it up to the terrace. And he got the ball up to the terrace, not to where we were in the press box.
No,
we're
nobody
above
gets
the
that high.
terrace.
Nobody's that
We're
high.
at the roof, but he got it to the bottom.
Pigeons
of the
don't go that
terrace.
high.
No.
That's right. So you can't outkick your coverage if he can hit it up to the terrace, and he gets it up to the terrace with accuracy. He's remarkable.
Yeah. You know, that's kind of the tail of the tape for the Saints. You talk about an elite player at the quarterback position. We talk about the second best player. It's the punter. Okay, that's part of the problem with the Saints right now. I mean, that's why you got such inconsistency with this team. And again, it's talent evaluation. Rene, what do you think about this weekend as the Saints travel to Arrowhead? It's a tough place to play. This is a tough team. You got a quarterback who managed the game. Spencer Ware is playing like an All-American. Never got this type of time at LSU. He's ripping it up. Charles may come back, and we know that defense is stout.
It is, and this is going to be a really, really tough. I don't know if you put this in the same category as the Falcons game, but this is going to be tough. This team is a little different than Carolina or San Diego Chargers. And so if the Saints rise up and beat Kansas City, this will be their biggest win of the year, because this will be the toughest opponent they would have beaten. And Kansas City playing on the road, and that's a tough place to play.
Yes, very tough.
And it's going to be a very interesting game, and you still got a lot of the season left to go. So a game like this is one of those kind of games that could go either way. The Saints have to win games like this.
Absolutely. You're looking at a team in Kansas City. They're 3-2. The Saints are 2-3. So it looks like they're pretty close, but they're not. Kansas City is a much better football team, but they've been wildly inconsistent. Get beat by 29 points by the Steelers 3 weeks ago. Have an off week, come back and beat the devil out of Oakland last week. Win by 16, but dominate in all three phases of the game. So which Kansas City team is going to show up? As a plus for the Saints, Sean Payton has always matched up very well with Andy Reid. Andy Reid is great after an open week. Well, open week was 2 weeks ago. Right. So that's good. Good for the Saints. Drew Brees, when he was with San Diego, always played well in Kansas City. So that's all good things. The bad things, Kansas City's going to be able to run the football, and the Saints aren't. Kansas City does a great job covering slot receivers. They're the best in the league at that. So Willie Snead might have a tough time of it. Whoever else they put in the slot, it's going to be interesting to see what schemes the Saints come up with to protect Drew Brees, depending on who's playing left tackle, to protect Drew Brees, and what they do to get their guys open, because they're not going to say, well, we'll just let them take Willie Snead away. No, they're going to find a way to get him some touches, too. It's going to be fun to watch that.
You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports each and every Thursday night right here on WLAE with our live broadcast every Friday at 10 o'clock on LAE, and statewide every Friday night, 9 o'clock, Pelican Sports Television. Great panel for you tonight. Rick Gaille of SportsNola.com, also Rene Nadeau of SportsNola.com. Guys, and so much more. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be talking about the Tigers and Tulane coming up, and we got some time today. These guys cover recruiting. They cover high school football. Try to get some high school football in here tonight as well. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. Don't move.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Amco Fence, locally owned and operated since 1976. Fully licensed and insured and a member of the BBB, Amco serves both residential and commercial customers. If you're looking to repair, replace, or install a fence for security or aesthetic reasons, Amco Fence supplies wooden, metal, chain link, vinyl, and ornamental or automatic gates. Amco aims to satisfy your fencing needs. Amco Fence, 504-468-9559 or AmcoFenceCompany.com.
TikTok Cafe, located on Causeway South at the I-10 in Metairie, is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Our menu offers breakfast dishes like our Western omelet made from scratch biscuits, grits, egg sunny side up, and lunch specials like our homemade cheeseburgers with a side of golden brown fries. Don't forget about our weekday lunch special, and that every Tuesday is steak night. TikTok Cafe, open 24/7 at Causeway South at the I-10 in Metairie.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. Tonight, Rene Nadeau and Coach Rick Gaille of SportsNorth.com are our guests. We'll go to the phone lines in just a few minutes. LSU, 45-10 over Southern Miss. They're now 4-2. They kind of started off really sluggish. Matter of fact, man, USM dominated them early. They go into the halftime at a 10-10 tie, and then they woke up. It seemed like they woke up. And I want to ask you guys, because you watch it very, very closely, was it the fact that a fire was lit under them at halftime, or was it adjustments on what you saw and why the Tigers came out and really roared out of the locker room at halftime?
Combination of both.
Okay.
Combination of both. And, and Rick knows this too, what is it? 80% of the game is worn above the shoulder pads or something. Am I right?
That's what Yogi said. 80% of the game is 50% mental.
That's it, right. I knew Yogi and I had a lot in common. But the thing is that's what Ed Orgeron reminds me a lot, the way they both arrived. Dabo Swinney. Dabo Swinney took over for Tommy Bowden at Clemson. And in this particular case, he took over. He's been an interim coach a couple of times. And very animated, very player-coach kind of guy, and he approached her from the shoulders up. He took a little bit of the drudgery out of practice. They had a lot every day. LSU had an hour-long walkthrough, and the players, they're glad that it's a little different pace now. He names the practices, it's Tuesday, Wednesday, and stuff like that, and it's just he's made it a lot more fun, and he's also letting his coaches coach. He's not going in areas that he's not going to call the plays and do things because that's not his deal. And he allowing Steve Ensminger the freedom and stuff, but he did light the fire and they did make some adjustments. And I think they do a lot more dialogue than the previous staff between the head coach and assistant coaches.
Coach, what can you add? And then if you would kind of morph into your thoughts on how Coach O has done so far.
Good. Sometimes the best adjustment you can make is to do what you're supposed to do, but do it better. And that was the biggest adjustment Saturday night. It wasn't any big strategic adjustment because you couldn't tell from the way the first half was played. Was it the game plan had to be adjusted or the players weren't playing very well? And that's what good coaches do. They could tell the difference, and it's very difficult to do that. So they tweaked some things and got the players to play better. So Rene was exactly right, getting your mind right, as we used to say, that they just had to pay greater attention to detail. I mean, both of us know Coach Orgeron very well, Bebe, as we called him. I actually coached against him when he was playing at South Lafourche with Bobby Hebert, and I was at Chalmette. We scrimmaged him in the first game, so coached against him way back in the day. He's got a win out. All of us would love to see him get the job on a full-time basis, but the big money people didn't get Les Miles fired to hire Ed Orgeron. They got Les moved on to try to hire a big name, a Tom Herman type, so to speak. In my mind, if you can get Tom Herman, great. If you can't, then Ed Orgeron, maybe Jimbo Fisher, because that dance may go around again. But even if he wins out, the big money people are going to try to get somebody else.
A name to watch for. And we've talked about this, and I wrote about this in Sports Nola last summer. I wouldn't say he landed an LSU job, but P.J. Fleck from Western Michigan has far exceeded, and I don't know if he's ready for a job like LSU, but Western Michigan has never been a top 25. And I talked to a guy today who's been up there and observed his program for a couple of days, and very stringent, and the players love him. But I think it's Tom Herman, I think right now, from what I heard, LSU is maybe third in a pecking order if he was to leave Houston. I think Texas and USC have an upper hand there. Right. So I think it may not be the first person they want. And I say they don't want Ed Orgeron, but it may be a little bit of a process. Kind of like Skip Bertman, when he stepped down, everybody thought Major League managers were going to leave their job and come get in line. Guess what? It doesn't happen. So it's going to be a process, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if a P.J. Fleck gets an interview But we hope right now. Ed Orgeron, he looks like a good fit. I don't think he's going to go undefeated. That's a meat grinder in the schedule.
Right. We're going to talk about that in a moment. Is this a top 5 program, and can they woo the top coaches in the nation to LSU?
Yes, it's a top 5 program, a top 5 job.
Okay.
But there's some downside as well. The biggest downside is that no matter how good you are, you stink. I mean, the same things they were saying about Les Miles, they said about Nick Saban until he was ready to leave. Right. And then all of a sudden, he was the man. What are you doing? And so it's not going to be the first guy that they go after. I mean, there's a lot of, yes, it's a top 5 job, but there are a lot of good jobs, not far from the top 5, that pay similar money. There's a lot of money out there in college football to be able to try to hire the guy that you want more than ever before. Right. So they're not going to. I would say that they will not get the first guy that they go after.
Right. You mentioned the coaches. Is it a top 5 program in your mind?
I think it is a top 5 program, but the one thing I think you have to also guard against is Tom Herman or PJ Fleck, who's in the same age bracket. I can see Tom Herman in the NFL in 5, 6, 7 years. Okay. Wherever he goes, at 41 years old, I don't think he'll coach in college the rest of his life. I just think that challenge, the money might be the same, but the challenge of maybe winning on a high college level and then winning there. But it is a top 5 program, but there's a lot of top 5 programs around, and the Alabamas, Ohio States, and also Clemson's another one.
Right. Leonard Fournette expected to come back this week. Will Clapp expected to come back this week. I want to talk about Fournette for a moment. We've all discussed Fournette in the past. Rene, you and I, we did a show on Leonard Fournette when he was here for WLAE. Talking about Fournette in his high school years. You guys saw Fournette in high school. Consider the Heisman's out of reach now, okay? And it doesn't look like he's coming back. I think that probably he's taking his time to get healed. Want to make sure that he's ready for this tough stretch. We'll get into that in a moment. Did LSU and Les Miles let Leonard Fournette down? A lot of people believe that if he would have went to Alabama, he would have won a Heisman Trophy by now. And whether it's the offense that he was in, whether it's, again, the situation with Les Miles as coach. Did LSU let Leonard Fournette down with a guy with that much talent that was thought to be a shoo-in for the Heisman Trophy before he left LSU?
I don't know if I'd say they let him down. If he'd have gone to an Alabama, for example, Derrick Henry there, example. But in games, sometimes, if you want to blame the scheme, the blocking, whatever, but Alabama game, he couldn't get any yardage. And one reason, because they didn't open up that offense. But I think Leonard Fournette is very, very similar to way Shaquille O'Neal in his last year at LSU. He is going to drink it in, because once in the field of dreams, once you step over that line, there's no coming back. And Leonard Fournette knows these days are numbered, and once it's gone in college, it's a whole different life. And I think he's going to enjoy every moment. He's going to play to the best of his ability, and I think he's been dying to get in this game. But to say if he'd have gone somewhere else, would he have won the Heisman?
Well, Alabama specifically, because it was not Alabama and LSU. I mean, that's what it came down to.
It's purely speculative. And again, you have Derrick Henry there. Would it have been a Fournette and Derrick Henry deal? Right. I don't know.
And a bunch of other guys. The best thing that would have been good for Leonard is if he went to Alabama, he wouldn't have to play Alabama. And that's that would be a good thing there.
Coach?
I have difficulty saying that the coaching staff let them down any more than the Stanford staff has let Christian McCaffrey down, who is the best player in college football. Okay, Leonard is as good a running back as there is, but when you look at Christian McCaffrey at Stanford, he returns punts, he returns kickoffs, he runs from the scrimmage, he catches passes, just a dynamic player. And then all of a sudden, boom, Oregon State, I believe it was Washington, just completely takes him out of the picture. So the variables in football and the nicks that you have, Leonard has never been this year 100% Leonard Fournette. He's been getting by on guts and competitiveness. You could tell that he was laboring. So I have difficulty saying that a university or a coaching staff might have let a player down, because once again, they say it's a short trip from the penthouse to the outhouse. The line of being the best or just a notch below is very, very narrow.
Guys, all preseason, all off-season, especially when the juniors decided to stay, and they stayed with the specific reason of trying to win a national championship. all we heard was if the LSU can get the quarterback position settled out, they got a chance to be an elite team. They got a chance to go to the national championship, to be in the Final Four, win the SEC West, win the SEC championship. All right, you got 5 games now in 6 weeks against ranked teams, the gauntlet of the SEC. You're at 25 down. If you go rerun the table, obviously you're in the top 5. Okay, if you run the table, so you're back in it. Etling has proved to be a pretty good game manager for this team. They've opened up the offense something that we didn't see under Les Miles. Is this an elite enough team, based on what we saw in the preseason, based on what we're seeing now, okay, before the season, to say that this team can run the table? Should they run the table considering the type of talent they have? Kind of take it from here.
You know, the defensive line is not a dominating, but the defense is good. And with Dave Aranda's schemes, and that's the strength of LSU, that defense. It has been. When they've won, they've had a great defense. Maybe they don't have the skill guys inside, and Arden Kia, of course, he's an elite player. But they do have good linebackers, Kendall Beckwith, Tre'Davious White, cornerback. I mean, these guys be playing in the NFL right now. They could they run the table? I mean, they're going to take one game at a time, one practice at a time.
Yes.
And would it surprise me for them to run the table? Yes, it would. Can it be done? Yes. The biggest thing, if LSU can stay healthy, which who knows what's going to happen.
Right.
If they can stay healthy, that is the biggest thing. They have a chance. If they lose linemen and lose guys that are key guys, I mean, what if Etling got hurt? What if Kendall Beckwith got hurt? It's got things like that. But if they stay healthy, yes, they have a shot.
That's right. How many games they got left?
5 games in 6 weeks.
Well, they don't have to win 5 at once. They're going to play each game as if it's their last. All they have to do is win 1 game. They've got to beat Ole Miss this week, and then you take it from there. So they're capable. Yes, it's going to be like the Bataan Death March in a sense of going through this particular schedule. But you get the feeling now the facility, the attitude of the facility has changed dramatically. Things had gotten really stale with Coach Miles. He wasn't doing the same things that got him there, because he was doing less than Les was doing less than what made him successful. But the feeling is in the facility now that, hey, let's go play. Let's get out on the practice field. Let's get good at what we're doing. Let's go play. So I think this football team will look at it as a challenge, and they can beat each one of the. If they play their best, they could beat Ole Miss. If they play their best, they could beat Alabama. You know, they could beat Florida and the like. They could beat Arkansas. They could beat Texas A&M. So literally 1 game at a time, because you don't have to win 5 in 1 week.
Right. 866-3200 is the phone number if you want to get involved on tonight's show. Guys, opportunity is what I've seen with this staff. They're giving guys opportunity to get on the field that didn't get an opportunity to get on the field with Les Miles.
Didn't even know they were on the team.
Right.
Who's that guy?
Right. And watching these guys go through the tunnel at the end of last week's game, and they're always excited when they win, but there seemed to be a total team excitement as they were going in. Everyone is contributing.
Russell Gage, wide receiver, didn't even know he was on the team, and he's out there, and he's just out there. He wants to block. I don't think he cares if he catches the pass. And you got guys now that are more involved in practice that were not involved before, shoulders up. And you got guys feel like, I'm a part of this team now. Receivers are going to get the ball. And you got backup guys, or now receivers in the game. The tight end is catching the ball now. So you got more guys involved, and they know if they practice hard. Trevante Valentine didn't play last week because he didn't practice hard. They know you have to practice hard. So Ed Orgeron sent out a message, and the guys have bought into it, and it's made it fun for them. And I think that has a lot to do with coming out with a winning attitude. They certainly have the talent, but if you want to win and you want to play hard, and they do, that makes a big difference.
Yeah, Coach?
Football players play their hardest when they sense an opportunity. That if I do what I'm supposed to do, I can get in the game, I can contribute, and we can all be successful. He's brought that back. Once again, it wasn't that this team didn't have talent. A lot of it was misdiagnosed, misutilized, not realizing the depth of talent that they have.
Yes.
And so It helps the whole team if everybody can contribute, because once again, it goes back to what we talked about earlier. I'm not going to let my buddy down. I might only be in for 5 plays, but I'm going to make those 5 plays really great because my buddies are dependent on me.
Tulane loses to Memphis last week, 24-14. They're now at 500-3-3. They came after coming back down 14 against UMass, something I didn't think they would be able to do on the road because of self-inflicted wounds. They weren't able to do that against Memphis as they kind of stepped up in class. Too many turnovers on special teams. Then they got one-dimensional, and Kuyet has looked really good throwing the football, but when Memphis knew they had to throw the football, they couldn't throw the football, and then the defense just got tired.
Yeah, they did. But the defense, Willie Fritz has done a better job than I thought. I was totally wrong. I thought they would really struggle. Defense has kept them in games, and a few bounces of the ball one way or the other against Wake Forest and Duke and Navy and stuff, and all of a sudden it's a different season. But they were that close to beating some of these, and it would have to be the bounce of the ball in their favor. But this team is certainly more capable. They're capable of getting to a bowl game. They really are.
Right, Coach?
You're looking at Tulane losing 3 games to Memphis, who's only lost 1 game. Navy's only lost 1 game, and Wake Forest has only lost 2. So they've lost to some quality opponents, and they were in the game with all of them. And good grief, Navy beats Houston, scores like 50 points against Houston, and Tulane holds them to 21. So they're on the right track, doing the right things. They can teach their systems. They can teach the techniques. The players are improving. The players are competing. The passing game, the receivers have light years to go. They're a long way. Yeah. And all you had to do was look at the deep pass. I think it was in the first quarter that the receiver's fighting like crazy to get inside the corner, and the ball's thrown outside the corner. And so he's over here and the ball's over. That's the receiver's fault. You never come inside on a deep ball. So they've got a long, long way to go, not just with the quarterback. I believe in Glenn Kuyet, who used to be Coulier when he was at Mandeville. Right. I guess he's progressed to Kuyet. But anyway, long way to go there. But Willie Fritz can teach. He's getting around. He didn't know the city at all last year, and there's some nuances in recruiting in the city that makes this very unique. Well, he's getting around and meeting people now and talking to the coaches, spending quality time with them. They've got the right man. They're going to have to fight to keep him, but that's what you want. You want a coach that you got to fight to keep. Yes. Tulane's going to have to step up.
I think you can spell Chapatulas now. I bet.
I bet. Piggyback on that, because Coach really stole my thunder. That was going to be my next question. Because you guys are involved in recruiting, because you watch the prep games so much and cover high school football, how's he doing in terms of making inroads in Louisiana?
He's definitely, and he's getting the right guy. Maybe in the past they recruited New Orleans and Louisiana hard, but not sure if they got the right guy. They're getting more guys that fit their program and guys that have a little, have some potential and fit their scheme. And I think he's got more of the right player. They didn't recruit this area as hard this past year because they came in late.
Yes.
But he's certainly made some inroads, and he's been to some places that maybe the previous staff did not recruit as hard.
Mm-hmm. I think that his offense is tailor-made for Louisiana kids.
Yep.
And, again, I think that any Louisiana kid that's not going to be going to LSU, one of the major schools, to have an opportunity to get a Tulane education, and then what comes up after that in terms of, being able to get a job in Louisiana, I think it's a no-brainer for a kid in Louisiana or in the New Orleans area not to go to Tulane University.
For Tulane to turn the corner, though, they can't recruit against Southeastern and Nichols and McNeese, or even UL,
right.
or Monroe. They've got to get the kid that's almost good enough to get to LSU. The 17-year-old senior who's not being offered perhaps by LSU because he's not physically mature yet. I think they do a great job in identifying the skills and talents that a player has and can be developed. I think Tulane should stay away from every 19-year-old senior, take as many 17 and 18-year-old seniors that have great physical upside, and that's how you wind up passing up the other schools.
And Zach Streif was on a show with Rick and I, and he told us, he said, if I were an offensive lineman, being from out of town, I would look hard at Tulane because you can get to the NFL, and you need good offensive linemen to play there, smart guys. Right. You get a great education. As Zach Streif said, that would have been a school I would have looked hard at because you can get to the NFL and all your goals, get a great education.
And that's the guy that went to Northwestern.
Yes,
Northwestern, no doubt about it. Let's go to the phone lines. Greg is in Houma. Greg, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Greg.
Hey, guys. Just got a thought, maybe a question in there as well. the Saints and the Panthers, I mean, we were up by 21 points, and yet Sean Payton didn't do anything to maybe control the clock and maybe, I don't know, just be more of a conservative with the run game. So my question is that more of a thought of the defense is bad and Sean Payton knows about it? And do you think that's going to continue during the year and maybe split the locker room? And I'll hang up and listen.
Thanks. Renee, is it about trying to outscore the opposition knowing that your defense is kind of porous?
Well, you have to outscore it.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do. When your defense gives up 32 points, 34 points a game, there's no speculation. You have to outscore them. And Drew Brees is, we talked about this before the show. In the next loss, if Drew Brees throws for over 205 yards, he will become the all-time NFL passer in passing for the most yards, which would be almost 27,000. He'll overtake Brett Favre and Vinny Testaverde in that category of throwing for the most yards in NFL history in losses.
Wow. It's amazing. That's an amazing stat. It's not a good stat, but it's an amazing stat.
I don't know when the garbage goes off, but I can tell you that.
I didn't realize you had that good math.
I tell you, I'm smarter than I look.
There you go. Coach, what are your thoughts?
The Saints' defense is bad. The Saints know that, and so yes, they have to outscore the opposition, but they try not to do it too fast. I mean, I'm not talking about explosive plays down the field. You've got to take advantage of that, but very seldom do they snap the ball with more than 10 seconds on the clock. The clock gets run down pretty good while they're in there. So with the Saints' defense being as bad as it is, yes, they're going to have to outscore people, but still try to control the clock some with the passing game and keeping the clock running by being a 70% completion percentage. But, they're not running up to the line of scrimmage trying to get 100 plays in.
No, they're not. And I'm a little surprised because the offensive line has played fairly well, that they're not trying to run the football more. I know that's not his MO, but trying to run the football more to keep the defense off the field.
Well, you don't have a guy that's going to put a lot of fear into the defense.
Right.
Mark Ingram's an okay. Timmy Hightower, he was a guy up the street, but they still don't have that elite back that's going to throw a lot of fear into a defense, and that's a big part of the problem.
Yeah, I could see in the staff meeting that when somebody would suggest a run, Sean Payton would ask him, "Would you rather run that play or let number 9 throw the ball?"
There you go.
I've been in those meetings before. Well, Coach, if it comes down to that, if your life depended on it, would you give the ball to him or let 9 throw it? We might
go with 9. Joe's in Covington. Joe, thanks for calling tonight. Welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Joe.
Hi. I just got a comment and kind of a question. It's about LSU. With Orgeron, I've kind of noticed when he's interviewed in the interviews on the radio that, unlike Les Miles, who kind of, I don't know how to put it, would wax philosophically, Orgeron is just all stats, and it seems like he's focused on the team that is ahead of them and the various stats of the various players. And I've just noticed that that's one change in LSU's kind of fighting philosophy since he's taken over. But really the point I was kind of trying to make was it seems in that last game especially that they utilized the tight ends to kind of, keep the linebackers honest, which is one thing we've always had a problem with, and especially last year with Alabama and Ole Miss. I mean, Fournette never stood a chance because the linebackers were always just basically there to fill up any holes that possibly might open. Whereas now with maybe the advent of using the tight ends, maybe that might change in these coming games.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate the phone. Coach, why don't you take it first?
Who's the offensive coordinator? Steve Ensminger. What did he coach? Tight ends. Mm-hmm. Surprise. In fact, we brought that up on the tailgaters when, they're going to open up the offense more. Well, they have by utilizing more personnel, utilizing all of them. They've only got about a dozen tight ends on the team. They've been recruiting them like crazy. I said, but the guy's coach tight ends. Of course he's going to use them more. And you're exactly right, Joe, because as an axiom in football, if you control the middle of the field, you control the whole field. And that's where the tight ends can do all of their dirty work, especially in the play action game, and LSU's got good tight ends. So the LSU and Steve Ensminger has done a great job of utilizing all of his personnel, but especially the tight end.
Rene?
And they got big tight ends. I
Yeah.
mean, 6'7", 6'6",
Some
6'7".
guys that can run too.
Yeah,
Big,
good player.
Jeter's a big guy. Morrow's a good blocker, but he's a good athlete. But you got and Deshaun Jackson is a good is another great athlete. But you know, Les was always very respectful to the media. But like everyone, after he answered the question, you forgot what the question was.
Right.
You know, he would go on for a while, and you're like, what did we ask him? But Ed Orgeron gets right to the point. Very short answers, and he deflects a lot of stuff to his players, his staff, and things. So it's much different than Les Miles.
Guys, let's talk a little bit about high school football, something we don't do a lot on this program. You guys both cover high school football extensively. Rene, I'll ask you first. Talk about just overall the high school talent that we're seeing here in the New Orleans area, and maybe some of the top schools. If you could kind of let the audience know a little about some of the top schools that are here in the city and the state.
You know, in the car, Rummel, De La Salle is coming up with a lot of guys now. But you know, Rick and I we always have a list on the show, and I tell you, this year we can come up with in this metro area. I'm not talking about the state. 50, 60, 70 guys who are being looked at by decent colleges. I mean, mid-range colleges or big colleges. So there's a lot of talent here. It's not always going to be the big linemen. They have a few. Last year, we had bigger defensive linemen and offensive linemen. There's always going to be skill guys here. And the thing is that, I say this every year, in NFL rosters, to start training camp, you always have 38 to 40 guys who played prep football in the New Orleans metro area, North Shore, River parishes, who are in NFL rosters. The same schools, and we we asked, and one reason there's so much talent is because of the coaching, because it's so competitive, and it means something. High school football means something here. Lunch is loaded. We had St. James on yesterday, Lowell Narcisse. Every year, I mean, there's guys that if you get a couple of guys out of this area, no matter if you're Alabama, Ohio State, anybody, it's going to upgrade your program. It's not just an extra player. There's a lot of talent here. 4 or 5-star guys, if that means anything, the stars don't mean a whole lot. But if you want to talk about the blue chip guys, there's a lot here. And there's more in Southeast Louisiana per capita in the NFL than anywhere else.
Coach?
Prep football has never been better. They've had golden ages before. We're continuing the new age, the new golden era of high school sports throughout the state of Louisiana. Talent is dispersed now more than ever before. There's more good players at more different schools. There's more good schools than there's ever been. Players work all year. Coaches make it a career. Rene said it exactly right. It's important, and the kids will work. And the coaching overall throughout the state is better than it's ever been. So this is just a spectacular age for prep football throughout the state. If you're not getting out to prep games as often as possible, then you are really missing something.
Finally, guys, again, Tulane takes on Tulsa this weekend. What do you think about the possibility of the Wave getting a win on the road?
They can run the ball and play defense, and they run the option, which gives other teams fits. So Tulane will have a chance in every game throughout the rest of the season. Perhaps not Houston, but I think even against Houston, they could find a way to frustrate the Cougars.
Tulsa's going to throw the ball, so that's going to be a little bit of a challenge to Tulane. But again, they have to play hard and cause your own, make your own luck. But they certainly can win this game. It's a winnable game. It's not like even a Memphis game, or a Houston game. Right. I think this is a game they could win.
Ole Miss, LSU.
I think LSU could win this game if they come out healthy. They got a week off before they play Alabama, but playing at home is certainly going to help. But Chad Kelly is going to be a handful for the LSU defense, and he's got some weapons. They could throw the ball around, and they play very physical on defense.
Right. Very interested in Ole Miss. Dave Aranda's defense is particularly effective against spread offenses, and so it's tailor-made for this. But Ole Miss and Hugh Freeze is really good at doing what they're doing. So that's going to be a big part of the football game, because your defensive line doesn't have to be as strong against them as they do against Alabama. Will the offense, will Etling continue to improve? Are they going to keep using all the players like they're using and give Ole Miss some variety? I think the Tigers, I think the Tigers are a better football team than Ole Miss right now.
Coach Rick Gaille, Rene Nadeau, thanks so much for being with us tonight on Inside New Orleans Sports. Remember, there's a rebroadcast of this program each and every Friday night right here on WLAE at 10 o'clock. Also on Pelican Sports Television at 9 p.m. That is in the Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and New Orleans markets. You can catch me on the radio, 990 AM WGSO, weekdays 11 a.m. until 1 p.m. You catch us on the TuneIn Radio app. It's a free download for your smartphone or tablet. Or you can download the podcast or listen live at ericasher.com. Don't forget, every single episode of Inside New Orleans Sports can also be seen at ericasher.com as well. Again, special thanks to our guests, Rene, Nadeau, and Coach Rick Gaille. Also to the WLAE production staff, Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Kenny Juneau, Naila Jones, and my director, William Hill. Thanks so much for watching another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. We'll be right back here next week. My name is Eric Asher. Have a wonderful week. Thanks again for watching.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is the first place award winner of the 2015 New Orleans Press Club's Excellence in Journalism Award for the category of Best TV Sports Show.